Tomorrow isn't just another day. It's the beginning of a 5-month cosmic shake-up that will test your foundations, challenge your comfort zones, and force hidden truths into the light. On May 4th, Pluto, the planet that rules death, rebirth, power, control, and transformation, goes retrograde. This isn't just astrology lingo. Pluto retrograde is a psychological and spiritual deep clean, where everything that's been repressed, old wounds, toxic patterns, buried desires, starts bubbling to the surface. You may feel it in your relationships, your career, your confidence, even your body. That sense of unease. That's Pluto doing what it does best, exposing what no longer works. This energy isn't here to break you. It's here to strip away the fake so you can rebuild from truth. And here's the real kicker. Pluto is sliding back from Aquarius into Capricorn, which means we're shifting from a future-focused mindset to revisiting old systems, rules, and identities. Think of this as cosmic pressure. Either you evolve or you stay stuck in stories that were never really yours. But here's the motivation. If you work with this energy, even imperfectly, it can be the launch pad to your most magnetic, unshakable self. So hit like, subscribe, and stay locked in, because what's coming next could flip your entire path in ways you never saw coming. Chapter 1. Dual Paths. This retrograde could make or break you. Pluto retrograde doesn't arrive gently. It arrives like a whisper from your shadow, then a thunderclap to your soul. For some of you, this will be the moment you've been unconsciously waiting for. A chance to break free from cycles you didn't even realize you were stuck in. You may feel lighter, clearer, bolder, as if the fog you've been walking through suddenly lifts. This is the path of emotional freedom, radical truth, and the kind of power that doesn't need to be loud to be felt. But for others, this retrograde may feel like emotional whiplash. Old wounds reopen, power struggles flare, and the life you've been carefully managing starts slipping out of your hands. That's not punishment, it's exposure. Pluto isn't here to destroy what's working, it's here to burn away what's not. And transformation, it rarely feels like a glow-up in the beginning. It feels like confusion, like chaos, like questioning everything. But that's the portal. If you avoid it, the energy will still move, but it will move through you instead of with you, and that's when it can burn. So ask yourself now, will this retrograde be the fire that forges you or the fire that consumes you? Because what you choose next sets the tone for everything that follows. So how do you know if Pluto retrograde is already working its way through your life, quietly shifting your thoughts, pulling at your emotions, stirring up situations that feel way too familiar to be coincidence? Let's break down the clearest signs that this energy is already in motion and what each one is trying to reveal. Sign 1. You're feeling pulled into the past. One of the first and most undeniable signs that Pluto retrograde is working through you is this sudden, almost eerie pull into your past. You might find yourself thinking about people you haven't thought of in years, exes, former friends, childhood memories, or even a version of yourself you thought was long gone. And this isn't just nostalgia. This is Pluto retrograding from Aquarius, the sign of innovation and progress, back into Capricorn, the sign of tradition, structure, and the past. It's a deliberate rewind, not to punish you, but to prepare you. This pull into the past isn't random. The universe doesn't waste energy. When old patterns, relationships, or emotional triggers come back around, it's not to drag you backwards. It's to show you what's still unresolved, what still has power over you, what you've survived but maybe haven't yet integrated. That ex showing up in your dreams, that weird pattern repeating itself again in your family, that sudden emotional reaction to something small. It's all data, all clues, all tests. And here's the truth, this isn't a trap, it's a chance to choose differently, to respond from the healed version of you, not the wounded one, to look the old story in the face and say, not this time. If you keep falling back into the past, it might be because there's still a piece of you that believes you belong there. Pluto retrograde gives you the cosmic mirror and asks, gently but unrelentingly, are you ready to stop playing roles you've outgrown? What rises now is your invitation to rise above it. Pay attention, because how you handle the past this time determines if it gets to follow you into your future. Sign 2. Power struggles are surfacing. Another clear sign Pluto retrograde is already in motion. The tension is rising and suddenly everything feels like a power struggle. You may notice yourself becoming more reactive, more defensive, or more controlling without fully understanding why. Or maybe it's the other way around. Someone in your life is starting to push your boundaries, speak over you, make decisions without your input, or try to pull emotional strings. Either way, it feels like something is trying to dominate, and Pluto is the reason. Pluto rules power, not loud, dramatic power, deep power, the kind of energy that runs underneath conversations, relationships, decisions. During retrograde, that energy flips inward, and what was hidden gets exposed. This is when you start to see clearly where the imbalance is, who holds control, who avoids responsibility, who manipulates to stay safe, and more importantly, where in your life you've been giving your power away in exchange for comfort, validation, or peace. This retrograde doesn't just stir up drama for no reason. It highlights where you've abandoned your voice to keep the peace, or where you've tried to control others because you don't feel safe in uncertainty. It's not about blaming, it's about waking up. If you're finding yourself caught in repeated conflicts, feeling cornered, or constantly needing to assert yourself, it's not just the situation, it's the lesson. Pluto retrograde is asking, are you operating from empowerment or fear? Are you reacting or are you reclaiming? This energy is showing you exactly where your power lives and what needs to shift so you can hold it with integrity. Don't avoid the tension. Don't silence your truth. Let the friction show you where your boundaries need strengthening and where your true authority is finally ready to rise. Sign 3. You're obsessed with something or someone. If you've found yourself locked in on something or someone lately, thinking about it non-stop, dreaming about it, feeling it in your body like a pull you can't explain, that's not random, that's Pluto. One of the most intense signs of Pluto retrograde is obsession, fixation, a kind of tunnel vision that doesn't let go. Whether it's a person, a goal, a memory, or even an idea that's suddenly taken over your inner world, Pluto is activating your subconscious. It's digging deep and dragging buried desire to the surface. Pluto rules the underworld, what's hidden, what's taboo, what you've kept tucked away because it felt too much. And during retrograde, those hidden pieces start surfacing. That obsession you're feeling, it's a signal. Not that you're losing control, but that there's something underneath it that wants your attention. Maybe it's a need you've ignored, a part of yourself you've denied, a fear you haven't faced. It could be passion, it could be pain, and most likely, it's a mix of both. This isn't just about being drawn to something intense, it's about asking, why this, why now? Is it pulling you toward your truth, or pulling you away from yourself? Pluto doesn't just tempt, it tests. It asks whether your desire is rooted in alignment or in avoidance. So take a breath and check in. That thing you can't stop thinking about, is it energizing you or draining you? Does it move you toward your highest self or distract you from becoming it? Pluto retrograde doesn't want you to suppress desire. It wants you to understand it, to reclaim it with clarity, not compulsion. Obsession can be a portal if you're willing to walk through it consciously. Just don't forget to ask, is this soul-aligned or soul-consuming? Sign 4. You're confronting your shadow. One of the most raw and revealing signs that Pluto retrograde is in full effect is the sudden intensity of your emotional reactions. Things that wouldn't have bothered you last week suddenly hit differently. You might feel overwhelmed, reactive, extra sensitive, or like you're on the edge of tears, rage, or shutdown without fully knowing why. This isn't moodiness, it's your shadow rising. And Pluto governs exactly that. The unconscious mind, the hidden parts of your psyche, the stuff you've buried because it felt too messy, too painful, or too not you to deal with. During retrograde, Pluto doesn't just whisper from the background, it kicks the door open. Your old coping mechanisms? They start to crack. The parts of yourself you've avoided? They show up in full color, demanding to be seen. This could look like jealousy you thought you'd outgrown, shame you thought you'd healed, resentment that bubbles up in a conversation that shouldn't have mattered that much. But here's the thing, none of it is random. These emotional outbursts and triggers are clues. Every reaction is a breadcrumb leading you to something deeper, something that's been waiting for your attention. Pluto isn't trying to destroy your peace. It's trying to reveal what's been disturbing it all along. And yes, it might feel like too much. But it's not. You're not. This isn't about being dramatic. It's about being honest, because the shadow isn't evil. It's just exiled. It's the part of you that formed in pain, but that holds power once it's reclaimed. And Pluto retrograde gives you that exact invitation. Not to suppress, but to integrate. To look at the feelings that scare you and say, I'm listening now. Because healing doesn't begin when you feel nothing. It begins when you finally face what you feel without shame. Sign 5. Authority issues are coming to a boil. If lately you've been feeling irritated with your boss, questioning your job, frustrated with rules, or suddenly unable to tolerate authority figures, it's not a coincidence. It's Pluto retrograde moving back into Capricorn. Capricorn is the zodiac's architect. It governs structure, order, tradition, and systems of power. And Pluto, the planet of transformation and control, is retracing its steps through this sign, forcing a direct confrontation with the frameworks that shape your life. Institutions, governments, work hierarchies, even family roles, anything that represents external authority is under review. But this time it's not just about whether the system works, it's about whether it still works for you. This retrograde acts like a spiritual audit. You start realizing that some of the rules you've followed blindly no longer align with who you are becoming. Maybe you've played the good employee, obedient child, or rule follower for years, but now that role feels suffocating. Or maybe you've clung to control in your own life by micromanaging everything, only to discover it's costing you your peace. Pluto is peeling back the illusion of stability to ask, is this structure supporting you, or are you just scared to step outside it? Tension with authority isn't just rebellion, it's insight. It shows you where you've outgrown systems that once defined your identity. This may feel destabilizing, especially if you've based your self-worth on external success or status. But here's the truth. Transformation often starts with dissatisfaction. The urge to question the rules means you're ready to rewrite them. You don't have to burn it all down, but you do have to get honest. Because this retrograde is asking a powerful question. Are you building a life that honors your soul, or just one that looks good on paper? And your answer might change everything. Sign 6. Your ambitions feel wrong. Something strange might be happening right now. You're hitting milestones, checking boxes, maybe even reaching the goals you once obsessed over. But it doesn't feel right anymore. The excitement is missing. The satisfaction fades quickly. And instead of feeling accomplished, you're left wondering, why doesn't this feel like enough? That's Pluto retrograde moving through Capricorn, the sign of ambition, legacy, and long-term success, shaking up your relationship with achievement. Capricorn energy drives us to build, to climb, to reach the top of something. But Pluto's retrograde motion through this sign doesn't care about surface-level wins. It digs deep into the why behind what you're chasing. And if your ambitions were shaped by pressure, fear, family expectations, or the need for validation, they're going to start feeling heavier now. Not because you've failed, but because you've outgrown the reason you started. This is the universe tapping you on the shoulder, asking, who told you this was success? Was it a parent, a teacher, society, or your own fear of not being enough? Pluto doesn't just call out your goals. It exposes the parts of you that chose them for the wrong reasons. If your vision suddenly feels misaligned, that's not confusion. It's clarity in disguise. You're being invited to pivot, to redefine success based on truth, not programming. Maybe it means a career shift. Maybe it means letting go of a role you've outgrown. Maybe it means realizing that making it was never the problem. Making it yours is. Don't panic if the dream feels distant now. That just means something deeper is calling. Pluto doesn't take away your ambition. It strips it down to its core so you can rebuild it on purpose. And that purpose, it's where real power begins. Sign 7. You're getting weirdly introspective. If you've been feeling the urge to withdraw lately, to cancel plans, turn off notifications, or just be left alone with your thoughts, you're not being antisocial, you're tuning in. Pluto retrograde energy is deeply internal. Unlike loud, fast, action-driven transits, Pluto pulls you inward, asking you to slow down and listen to what's beneath the noise. It's not uncommon during this time to crave solitude, therapy, journaling, or long silent walks with no destination. That sense of needing space, that's not weakness. That's your intuition making room for something important. Pluto retrograde strips away distractions. It shows you the difference between who you really are and who you've been performing as to fit in, succeed, or survive. When the outside world starts to feel too loud, overwhelming, or even fake, it's a sign that your inner world is demanding attention. And that can be uncomfortable, especially if you've avoided stillness out of fear of what might come up in the quiet. But here's the thing. Silence isn't emptiness. It's where you begin to hear your truth again. It's the space where the real questions rise. Am I happy? Am I aligned? Am I living for myself or for someone else's story? This kind of introspection isn't indulgent, it's essential. Pluto retrograde gives you a chance to unplug from the chaos and plug back into your soul. Not every answer will come right away, and that's okay. What matters is that you're making space to ask the questions. So if you're pulling back from the crowd, honoring your need for alone time, or even considering therapy for the first time, lean in. This isn't you shutting down. This is you finally tuning in. And in that stillness, you'll remember the parts of you that the world made you forget. Sign 8. You're ready to burn something down. There's a moment in every Pluto retrograde where something inside you just snaps. And not in a chaotic way, but in a clarifying way. Suddenly you're done. Done pretending, done tolerating, done holding it all together just to keep the peace. You might wake up one morning and realize a job, a relationship, a role, or even a version of yourself no longer fits, and never really did. That's not failure. That's Pluto doing what Pluto does best, destroying illusions. This planet isn't about surface-level change. It goes straight for the roots. And when it retrogrades, the internal pressure builds until you can no longer lie to yourself. You may feel an urge to walk away from something familiar, not because you hate it, but because staying would mean betraying who you're becoming. That's not recklessness. That's clarity. But here's the key. Don't just burn it down to escape. Burn it down to rebuild something real. Pluto clears what's false, but it asks you to choose what comes next. So before you act, ask yourself, am I walking away from pain or toward power? Because this could be the start of your liberation, but only if you move with purpose, not impulse. Let it burn with intention. Chapter 3. How to work with this retrograde instead of getting wrecked by it. Pluto retrograde isn't here to ruin your life. It's here to reveal it. And once you see what's been running silently in the background, old fears, control patterns, outdated goals, you can't unsee it. But that's the gift. This retrograde gives you the rare chance to pause and ask, is the life I'm building actually mine? If the answer is no, this is your moment to shift course, not in panic, but in power. Start by getting honest with yourself. Journaling during this transit isn't just helpful, it's essential. Ask, what am I afraid to release? And where do I give away power to feel safe? These questions unlock doors your conscious mind has kept closed. Notice where you're stuck in toxic control loops, whether that's obsessing over someone, micromanaging your path, or staying in cycles that drain your energy. This is your cue to detox. Then look at your goals. Have they been inherited instead of chosen? Pluto in Capricorn wants you to redefine success on your own terms, not your parents', not society's. Finally, remember this. Power doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is move in silence, led by your soul, not your ego. That's real transformation. Chapter 4. Why this retrograde is a launchpad, not a life sentence. This is not just another retrograde. This is Pluto, slow, generational, and irreversible. When Pluto moves, it doesn't just shift your mood for a week, it reshapes entire life chapters. What rises now might feel intense, but that's because it matters. The triggers, the emotional waves, the sudden clarity. They're not random, they're invitations. Pluto retrograde is your chance to get brutally honest, release the masks, and begin rebuilding your identity. Not from survival patterns or trauma responses, but from soul-level truth. This isn't about fixing everything overnight. You don't have to have the perfect plan, the perfect healing process, or the perfect words. You just have to show up for yourself. Start asking better questions. Start walking away from what no longer respects you. Start choosing goals that reflect who you are, not who you had to be to cope. Think of this retrograde as a cosmic reset button. What you let go of now clears the path for what's truly meant to stay. Yes, it's deep. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But it's also powerful beyond belief. This is your launch pad. Not into who you were, but into who you've always been becoming. Choose to rise with it, because this moment won't come again. So if everything you've heard feels like it's already happening in your life, that's not a coincidence, it's confirmation. Pluto retrograde is here, and it's already moving through you, whether it's stirring up old patterns, challenging your power, or pushing you toward a breakthrough. This is your moment to respond with clarity, not fear. Transformation doesn't wait, and neither should you. If this hit home, hit like, make sure to subscribe for what's coming next, and comment the number 77 if you're ready to rise, release, and rebuild. Your next chapter starts with the choice you make right now.